I'm enrolling in Medicare soon, and it had me a little confused. Then I found myhealthpolicy.com. With myhealthpolicy.com, I could go online and compare Medicare Advantage plans from some top-rated national insurers, including $0 monthly premium plans. I can learn about plans in my area and talk with a licensed insurance agent if needed. myhealthpolicy.com has made doing my research a whole lot easier.
My choice, my Medicare, myhealthpolicy.com.
Hello and welcome to Audio Gyan. Today we have Anusha Pinto with us to have a Gyan session on copywriting, branding and advertising. Anusha started her career 10 years back in marketing, switched to copywriting and now makes her living by strategizing for brands. At heart, she is a creative butterfly fluttering between gardening, lettering, cooking, drawing, designing, writing, storytelling, dreaming and more. Thanks Anusha for being on the show.
Thanks Kedar for having me.
Yeah. So I'll directly get into our conversation. The first thing which I wanted to ask you is what are the challenges of making a not so good brand better? Just to give you a context, I was working in WebChutney, an online advertising agency, where there were a lot of brands which used to come for us to make microsites and flash banners and things like that. And I found that they really had a very weak positioning, or the product itself was not really good. So what kind of challenges a copywriter or a agency has to make a very sad brand hit the market?
Okay, I think you covered one point that I was going to say is that the very first thing that we try to figure out when we start working on a brand is why the brand is not doing well. That's the first thing we want to figure out. And if there is a problem with the product and the service itself, then no amount of branding or advertising can save that product.
Okay.
So that's challenge number one, and that's you're almost hitting you're probably setting yourself up for failure over there also. You're going to be wasting a lot of money trying to build a brand out of a product which is not good.
Okay.
After that, the second biggest challenge is when a brand doesn't know who it is, just like a person.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. If we are people, and people always tell you be who you are.
Mm-hmm.
Be who you are, and the right people will come to you.
Correct.
That's the advice we give to a person.
Yeah.
We always tell a person, why do you live for others or do you live for yourself?
Yeah.
Now that's easier said than done. It works in the case of a person. They don't have to please everybody.
Mm-hmm.
But whenever we try to go up the ladder as a human being, we always ask for feedback from people, improve our points, have certain goals, adjust our personality like that.
Correct.
But the root of it is always in our true nature. As a brand, the sweet spot is between your true nature and the relevance part of it. How relevant you are to the people you want to reach out to. So
Correct.
Just as a person, how you do self-improvement, brand is built between what the brand truly is and what the brand wants to be perceived as. So what the brand wants to be perceived as is something that a marketing agency can help you define. But what the brand is right now, or who they are, or why do people work over there, what does it mean to its employees? If people don't know that, then that's a huge challenge to bring out of the brand owners themselves.
But isn't it simple to make things up?
Yeah, it is very simple to make things up.
Uh-huh.
Today, in this day and age, anyone can do a background check on a brand.
Correct.
Anyone.
Yeah.
Right? And everybody has a voice online.
Mm-hmm.
So when you fake a story,
Mm-hmm.
the audience can just call your bullshit immediately.
Correct. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's when you're trying to create a brand, if your foundation is only created in fakeness, I don't even know if fakeness is a word, but if your foundation is fake, then you can just imagine how crumbly the rest of the structure is going to be.
Yeah.
At what stage are you going to evolve your brand? How are you going to build upon it? How are you going to stay true to it? What are you going to deliver to your customers? Are your employees ever going to deliver what you promise in your advertising?
No, but for a small bit of campaign, you can fake, right? And just promise something to get that initial traction and then build on it.
But I think that's
becomes repetitive.
No, that's a very old way of looking at advertising, I feel.
Oh, okay.
Of doing a campaign without taking any responsibility for the brand. Okay, today you have your Coca-Cola and your Thumbs Up and your Pepsi. All three of them are the same product, but they just can't do advertising based on what anything fake or what people want to hear. They have to still maintain a bit of authenticity, and they need to know who they are for that reason. So if Coca-Cola is about bringing people together, all their campaigns will have to be about bringing people together. They suddenly can't become youth, which is the space that Pepsi has. Adrenaline is the space that Thumbs Up has.
Correct.
Okay, you can't mess around with your space. And then if you want to stay true to that space, today there is digital content also. So you have every place where you have to stay true to that space. Okay, so that was my challenge number 2. I have more challenges actually. So like I said, the whole story and you're talking about faking it and all of that, which leads me to the third challenge, which is about getting all the stakeholders on board at the same time. To know what a brand is, you need to have the people leading the brand part of the exercise, where you figure out what the brand is. So you need to have your CEO. It shouldn't just be a CMO level function. Even the CEO has to be involved. The CHRO has to be involved. So everybody gets involved. If they themselves have not had this discussion before, where they don't know what the brand is, then it's a scary place. The next challenge is amongst these people and everything. Today everybody's saying data. We're all data driven and all of that. But branding is not a data driven exercise. It's a feelings driven exercise.
Oh, that's interesting.
Okay. Data can tell you what's happening. Data can help you predict the future. But data can't help you create a future. You are not here. A brand is not here to go with the flow. A brand is here to create a flow. And to create your own path, the data can only give you certain insights. But you have to add your imagination to it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And because it is so feelings driven, it's a very, very subjective process. Which brings me to the fourth point, which is that because it is a subjective process, it is time consuming.
Sorry to cut you here. It's subjective for the brand or for the agency?
So again, I would like to blur the lines over here. Okay, the agency and the client have to work in partnership to build a brand.
Okay.
Okay, and therefore the client who owns the brand and the agency who is doing the marketing or the creating the campaign for the brand, they need to work together. See, tomorrow the brand can change the agency. Will they change who they are? No, right? The brand still has to be what they are. And that's why it's very important that regardless, once the agency changes, the brand owners only are the custodians of the brand. Yeah, and that's why I was saying that when it comes to stakeholders, today everybody wants things very fast. But it's not. When you're naming a brand, you're not naming a baby ki haan chalo 1 mahine mein baby ko name kar diya and rest of the life the baby will deal with the name. Today you have to ask, rest of your life will you deal with the name?
Yeah.
Your name is going to last forever. Your branding has to last at least 10 years if not 20 years.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah.
You can't keep changing your identity every 5 years. Though some brands have tried doing that lately and it's just been a massive waste of money. And your strategy that you create, your brand strategy, that has to last you at least 5 years. The campaign you create has to last you 3 years. If not, 1 year also. It has to. There is so much of investment. Each film takes about 1 crore to make, yeah. It's not a joke.
Yeah.
So how can you do these things in like 5 minutes? Or, I give you brief today, I want it tomorrow. Sure, we can crack these things. Under pressure, everything is possible. But time is still a challenge. After that, because I spoke about feelings and time, the thing is that branding therefore is not an instantly measurable outcome.
Yeah.
Okay, because like I said, it's not a data-driven process, it's a feelings-driven process. But we all know that it takes time to build brand equity. So the results of branding take longer to show themselves. It's not going to show you instantaneously.
Okay.
And finally, the biggest challenge within an agency, after everything is said, is execution.
Yeah.
Because you can have you can probably get all your stakeholders on board, you can figure out what the brand is, you will create this brand story, you will have a vision and everything, and then to convert that vision into the perfect film
or channel,
print, digital, communication, emailers, even transaction mailers, everything. That's where, because so many people are involved in this execution line.
Correct.
And you have to get everyone excited about this. That is also a huge challenge.
You mentioned about spending a lot of money and making sure that the communication from a brand should remain consistent at least for 5 years. But in my experience, I've seen Orange, then Hutch, and then turning into Vodafone. So how do you think they must have managed these big brand transitions?
Actually, this is a great example because the transition was so smooth
Mm-hmm.
that none of the customers, because I was also a Hutch customer, which then when it became Vodafone,
Mm-hmm.
and I know a lot of people who were Orange customers and then it became to Hutch.
Yeah.
They managed to bring in that excitement. So no customer was uncomfortable
Mm-hmm.
with this change in name, with this change in logo, with this change of brand. And they did it very seamlessly.
Mm-hmm.
The way they did it seamlessly
Mm-hmm.
was with their tone of voice. So Vodafone, be it Orange, Hutch, Vodafone, all three have a very warm tone of voice. And these are all three have made sure, at least in the Indian market, that's what I can speak for right now, to be a brand of few words.
Mm-hmm.
None of them did highly emotional campaigns,
Yeah.
but all of them did warm, innocent campaigns.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Hutch came in. Hutch was pink in color, and Orange was very obviously orange in color.
Mm.
All they said was orange is now pink.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, such a succinct line,
Mm-hmm.
and they just used this color to help you change the
Perception.
They didn't tell you orange is now Hutch. That's going to be difficult for you to remember.
Mm-hmm.
They did a play on the color.
Mm.
Orange is now pink. Pink
Yeah.
is equal to Hutch. That later, theek hai.
Huh.
You'll remember later, no problem.
Correct.
First, just remember orange is now pink. Tomorrow, when you go to upgrade your SIM card for any reason, you're going to get a pink color SIM card.
Wow.
And you'll be okay with that.
Yeah.
Then what did, after that campaign, what did Hutch do? Hutch introduced you the Hutch puppy. Yeah? Again, very warm communication. No dialogues.
Mm-hmm.
Just this puppy that gives you this feeling of innocence. And wherever you go, your network follows you. And they would just, that puppy would just go and be with this person. It would be cute.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It made you feel all warm and fuzzy inside.
Yeah.
And they used that same puppy and they showed him in Vodafone.
Vodafone.
So again, you have a thread.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you're seeing the same character taken forward.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that tone of voice from Hutch to Vodafone has maintained itself.
Correct.
With this puppy, with happy to help. So regardless, that tone of voice has continued. Because when brands change, visual language has to change.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And this is one advantage where your tone of voice can probably change as per markets. Maybe Vodafone speaks differently outside. I'm not too sure. I mean, Zuzu's is a very Indian thing.
Correct. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I think that's where you have to be very, very careful when you manage change like this.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about making a big dhamaka.
Correct.
You know, it's about touching upon what people already know about your brand
Mm-hmm.
and then bringing about that transition.
Yeah. So now, as you said, the transition was very smooth. So what kind of role does language play in advertising world?
So in advertising, because of the mediums that we use, there are two kinds of languages.
Mm-hmm.
Visual and verbal.
Correct.
Okay. If I do experiential design, then smell also becomes my language, texture also becomes my language.
Interesting.
Whatever helps you communicate
Mm-hmm.
with your audience is your language.
Mm-hmm.
Correct?
Mm-hmm.
So, as someone in branding, I will talk to you about visual and verbal language.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think the biggest role of language is to help your audience recognize you.
Mm.
How do we recognize our friend's voice?
Correct.
You know,
Yeah.
even if sometimes you tell your friend you don't sound like yourself.
Mm-hmm.
The voice is the same, right?
Yeah.
But what changes? The tone, the emotion.
Mm-hmm.
When your friend is feeling low,
Mm-hmm.
you don't sound happy. You don't sound like your usual bubbly self, you'll tell your friend.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Mm.
So, verbal language nuances are in sentence construction,
Mm-hmm.
sentiments, emotion, tone of voice,
Mm-hmm.
these things.
Mm-hmm.
And that helps you recognize whether a brand is sick or a brand is healthy.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because when a brand is consistent, the brand is healthy.
Mm-hmm.
The brand is up and down, the brand is being bipolar. Nobody wants to be associated with a weird brand, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I think that helping people recognize your brand is very, very important. And that's what Vodafone did. They maintained that tone of voice.
Correct. Yeah.
You know, that's what Fast Track does. When you see something outrageous, you know it's Fast Track.
Mm-hmm.
You're not expecting a lovey-dovey, sweet thing from Fast Track.
Yeah. Even thumbs up.
All these
Yeah.
brands that I have mentioned to you
Yeah.
right now. Same thing goes for visual language.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The main job of visual language is, if I see a hoarding, when you see a Vodafone hoarding, you know it's Vodafone. Right now they have done the triangle visual language.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
When you see an Airtel hoarding, you see a blurb. Okay, you didn't get the message, but at least you remembered acha to maybe Airtel brand ka ad it must
Yeah.
be.
Yeah.
Right? You see an Aircel, you will not remember what it is.
No. Yeah.
That's the difference.
Uh-huh.
You know how an Airtel brand looks, you know how a Vodafone, but you don't know what Aircel looks like.
But is it because of the reach or also?
Definitely, reach has a big role to play. Media buying has a big role to play in all of this.
Mm-hmm.
But there is a certain pattern, right, that you see.
Yeah. And
if
the
you can
simpler it
see
gets.
Of maybe these brands have communicated equally with us, but we've not recognized them so much. It's like now, even I shouldn't be saying, but a lot of other competitor brands look like Apple ads.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everybody is using that thin font,
Yes.
slim thin font with white background.
Yeah. Yeah.
They don't need to. Apple already owns that space. They think they're fooling people. They're not. You know, people will think, oh, maybe that's some Apple ad.
Yeah.
You know, that's what will happen. So that's one big role that language plays. Second role that language plays is, of course, of pure communication. You want to tell your offer, you want to tell your offering. Language is what's going to help you tell that. And third, very important role in advertising within the agency. The role that language plays within the agency. See, when a client comes to you with something, right? You don't go in the first week with a full-fledged campaign. You first excite them with your words. You communicate the idea. You communicate the strategy in your presentation. With the help of a few visuals and some films and all might be there. But the bigger thought is communicated face to face as a story. Okay, a script is also read out to the client. It is your tool to help your clients and your teammates imagine what is the future of this brand.
Yeah, I remember Prasun Joshi actually doing a small skit to explain what's going to happen in the brand. Yeah.
Yeah. Because you can't execute, no. Like I told you, films cost 1 crore to make.
Correct, yeah.
But can you get the client excited enough to spend that 1 crore on your film? Or even for a small client, 5 lakhs. It's still big money for a small client.
Correct, yeah.
Right? How do you excite them to do that? How you need to spark their imagination. And that's done through words.
Yeah, so now that you have moved into slightly a brand strategy kind of a role, but I remember you started off working as a copywriter as well. So just in terms of pure language, what do you think command over particular language is important?
Okay, the first and foremost, like I mentioned in the previous question also, your command over your language is your tool that helps you imagine.
Correct.
If you will not be able to communicate your idea verbally, then it's very difficult for you to get approval on that idea. Correct? That's one. Second is ideation itself. You know, the broader your vocabulary, the mastery of your grammar. Now, these might sound like technical things, but these are not technical stuff. This is craft. You know, how you hone your craft. You know, just when you're drawing, haath baithna chahiye na, practice se, and you will understand how to make a curve. Like that, when you're writing, you will have to hone your vocabulary. You have to improve your sentence construction skills. You have to make it very precise. You have to be very technically right with it, and that's your craft. So the more you hone your craft, the more it lets you think and express yourself better. And that's when you come up with, you know, different lines to say different things, to think different things. How will you feel things if you don't know what to call it? You know, the reason why our spectrum of emotions is so broad is because we can also recognize these emotions. If you can't tell grief from despair, as a writer, you should be able to tell what is grief and what is sadness, and what is pity, what is empathy, what is sympathy. Only then you can clearly define, what my brand will be. Will my brand be a sympathetic brand or an empathetic brand?
Yeah.
Is my audience going to like my brand or love my brand or be fanatic about my brand? The more you know your goal, the closer you can get, and that's why you need to articulate it that well. But fine, this is about vocabulary and you know how it helps you recognize different things and helps you narrow down on an idea. But also, like I said, sentence construction, the way you weave your words together, that craft is super important. Because the more you practice your language, You know, when you're in a client's room giving them a presentation, you have one shot to get an approval on an idea.
Correct. Yeah, but like I wanted slightly a different take on language, because our generation, the foundation has been slightly better than what it is there today. So, for example, if a new person doing a BBA course, he might be kicked over some slang words to be used in the brand, and uh, a very different kind of vocabulary altogether. So, how will they build the foundation then?
So the foundation of language is anyway the basic construct of it.
Mm-hmm.
Construct is the same. I mean, you
Mhm.
have your verbs and your adjectives and your prepositions, so you know that first you cannot like you will talk about it's basic sentence construction that I don't think changes. I think what you're talking about is slang and stuff is about the evolution of language. So few years ago, Bollywood was not in the Oxford Dictionary. Today it is.
Mhm.
Masala was not in the Oxford Dictionary. Today it is. It's
Mhm.
part of the official Oxford Dictionary. It's in the English language.
Mhm.
And it will evolve.
Mhm.
Slang will evolve.
Mhm.
Slang evolves as culture evolves, as humans evolve. And it will become language.
So if a
Okay.
new upcoming copywriter, just without having a strong foundation of English, says that yes, texting is a word and which can be used very casually among people, it's fine.
It's fine.
Okay.
It's absolutely fine. But I don't know if it is a strong foundation of English or not, because if his grammar is off,
Mm-hmm.
if he doesn't know how to write a sentence,
Mm-hmm.
then it doesn't matter what words he knows, right? A job of a copywriter is not to talk like himself or herself.
Mm-hmm.
Copywriter has to talk like the brand.
Brand, yeah. So far, whatever you have spoken about, I would like to slightly concise everything and just ask you what could be the main three factors to make a brand successful.
I think first and foremost comes honesty.
Mm-hmm.
Second is consistency,
Mm-hmm.
speaking the same thing. And third is relevance. And
Okay.
in between consistency and relevance comes a phase called evolution. It's painful. It's not easy to tell a true story, to tell who you are.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times people feel that if I just tell who I am, maybe it's not interesting enough.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the job of the marketer. But yes, honesty is one of the most important things for a brand. That's what I would say. Second thing I said is consistency. Now, most brand owners find consistency very boring. They're like, kuch naya dikhao yaar.
Mm-hmm.
Now, imagine if Vodafone told us that.
Mm-hmm.
And every year they change the way they look.
Yeah.
How much equity they would lose out on, right?
Yes.
So you need to sound like yourself without getting stagnant. And that's why the third point of relevance. Relevance can only happen if you understand what you want to be and you evolve like that. A lot of brands today, your shampoo brands, soap brands, they want to be like Dove. But remember where Dove started. Dove started with 1 quarter moisturizing milk. You can't just take another brand which is rooted in science and ask them to go the Dove way. So you have to evolve because the conversation has changed today.
Correct.
You know, today Dove's latest with women from different strata of society, that why should beauty have only one face? You know, that is completely changed. They have not taken celebrities. But that doesn't mean every other brand should now chuck their celebrities and move to what Dove is doing. You know, Garnier has always been the girl next door, an everyday girl. Never really a celebrity. But there are other brands that bank on celebrity. L'Oreal takes a celebrity, says because I'm worth it. Because that's what it wants women to believe. These three brands know what they're talking about. And they know they're trying to stay true to that. But some other brands try to falter here and there. You know, so you have to be relevant because people's needs are changing, because people's wants are changing, and you have to say something new. And that's how all these 3-4 points are connected. Honesty, consistency that leads to a very relevant evolution.
So moving on to the next section of this, which is slightly, which I have experienced personally, that in the advertising agency, there's generally a copywriter and a designer pair. So I want to understand a bit more about how they complement each other, how they...
It used to be a copywriter and an art director together because that was the medium. The medium demanded that. Your medium was visual and verbal. Today, when you do experience design, you will be a copywriter, a designer, and an architect working together. You know? And so it really depends on what is the medium. For so many years, the medium was hoardings and billboards and television, and that's why it's been a writer and an art director.
Anusha, just considering the time, I would like to conclude with one last question: that how does one get into this field, or um, how did you come into this field?
I have to tell you my past.
Mm-hmm.
So I got out of school as a ACE student, walked straight right in and started a vocational science, electronics, 11th, 12th kind of person. And then I realized this is not for me. And I didn't know what to do. And people said no future in BA, BCom. I didn't want to do math and stats. And BSc again, no future. So what to do? Tabhi something new came up, BMM. I said, chalo, BMM karte hain, movies dekhenge. Advertise, you have to watch TV all day. So do this. That's how I got into BMM. Even I didn't know about it. Some friend was going for some orientation. I just joined my friend. And I got into the colleges that I applied. I got into KC College, which is one of the best. Okay, it's one also for top rank, whatever. But that is those 3 years were the made it worth the remaining 12 years of torture of education that I had gone through. So 3 years in BMM were the golden years of my education. So this is the true education. After I did that, I got campus placements and got a marketing role in DirectEye. There I did 3.5 years of marketing. Okay, so in DirectEye, I got into sales and then I moved into community evangelism. There was no role called community evangelism back then in India. Like, not many companies had it. Only some foreign companies had a community evangelist. So Facebook and all had not caught up. 2008 is when people started making accounts on Facebook, Twitter and all of this. I'm talking about 2007. Okay.
Yeah.
So it was really strange because the first thing that I had to do as a community evangelist was build a community around DirectEye. And today I think we call it employer branding also, where we get people excited to be part of the brand, to not buy the brand but to work for a brand. Right? And that's where a true community is formed. And my work for 3 years was that, to launch a product also. We launched CodeChef over there, which was to bring programmers together and, basically build a community of better programming. So there was a vision. There was so much focus on work culture. Today we talk about culture of a brand. We were doing this in DirectEye back in 2007, 2008. Okay. Then I left in 2010, wanted to do something far more creative. So I started my own company called Art Umbrella, which failed. Alongside, I was also, I took up a course in applied arts from Rachna Sansar. It was a 2-year weekend course. In the last semester, I dropped out because I had no money to pay the fees. I got broke. I didn't put all my money in Art Umbrella. I went broke. But anyway, the last year was about doing a campaign. Till then, all the theory was done in the first 3 semesters. So, and making campaign, by then I needed a job. So I got a job as a copywriter because I had not yet, haath nahi baitha tha. Just did a course, all theory in place, ideas and all are there. But I can't execute. So I couldn't be an art director. So I became copywriter. Okay. And I anyway wrote, I had a small blog and marketing mein, so I had to keep writing content. So theek hai. So I became copywriter. Now all this mixed marketing, knowledge of applied art, which is also like visual design and copywriting, because my boss there, Sharmishta Mukherjee, she made sure to make me believe that I was good for nothing. Okay, like she's like, my grandmother can write better copy than you. But she was a great teacher, a great mentor, and she really made sure that we, all of us who came out of Ariksha and Flying Cursor, every writer like loves her because she made us write so much better and think about a brand in that way. And so using all these 3 things, understanding a brand from inside, working client side, to understanding a brand from outside as a copywriter and somebody in advertising, now my role has gotten evolved to brand strategy.
Okay.
So the way it happened at Happy Magari Bhavan is that I joined as a design writer. Very excited about design because I already had an applied arts knowledge. So I joined as a design writer in their design cell. And I used to write copy for brands as well as describe the design that has happened. So I used to try and articulate why the designers did what they did.
Mm-hmm.
And I also used to articulate why I want to name this brand like this.
Mm-hmm.
Or why do I want the tone of voice of a brand to be such and such.
Mm-hmm.
Turns out that was part of strategy.
Mm-hmm.
Explaining why you do what you do.
Mm-hmm.
Because the role of a strategist is to ask why.
Mm-hmm.
Why should this brand say this? Why does it matter to the client? Why should the customer care?
Mm-hmm.
You know, why is the category like this?
Mm-hmm.
It's all about the why, and in the end you have to answer, why does this make sense?
Correct. Yeah.
You know, so that's my job.
Uh-huh.
That's what I do.
Uh-huh.
And it's fun being a brand strategist.
Yeah.
And
as you mentioned, design writer, so I'm sure that there will be a lot more kinds of role in the overall advertising industry. So any, like, just quickly, if you can tell me how one should get into copywriting.
when, like, back then there used to be no courses.
Mm-hmm.
I know very few copywriters who always knew that they wanted to be copywriters.
Mm-hmm.
Most of them were like, I'd be a lawyer, or were going to do their engineering, or did their engineering, or BCom graduates, BSc. It happened by chance for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
But nowadays, of course, it's a lot more popular, so people are becoming copywriters, content writers on purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Not falling into the trap like we did.
Mm-hmm.
And there are also certain prestigious institutions that charge you a bomb
Uh-huh.
to study these courses.
Okay.
But your salary is going to be peanuts only at the beginning, unlike designers that come out of prestigious institutes.
Mm-hmm.
So you can skip that part and just straight become an intern in an agency or a design studio. Find that mentor.
Mm-hmm.
That's the best way to learn.
Mm-hmm.
Because no one can teach you writing. They can only bring it out of you. And most writers, copywriters especially, understand your struggle, because 10 years ago there was nobody to tell us who to be a copywriter, and 20 years ago for the people who were nurturing us, they also did not have anybody to tell them, right? They were all misfits. So we understand the struggle. We understand nobody's path has been straight. And the best people are the people who are already in the industry. And if you want to make it happen, you have to join as an intern if you're straight out of college, or take a heavy pay cut the way I did. Get into it. It's not rosy, but you do it because you like it. That's it.
Cool. Thanks Anusha for having a Gyan session with us.
Thanks, Kedar. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And made me also think about why I do what I do.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. That's great. Thank you.
And that's all from today's Gyan session with Anusha Pinto. Stay tuned for more audio Gyan next week. Till then, bye.
New to Medicare? Start now. Go to myhealthpolicy.com to learn about some of the top-rated Medicare Advantage plans in your area, including plans for $0 a month in plan premiums, low out-of-pocket costs, and expansive provider networks. If you're thinking about a Medicare Advantage plan, myhealthpolicy.com is a great place to go to find a plan that meets your needs. Learn more about your options. Even talk with a licensed insurance agent. myhealthpolicy.com.
New to Medicare? Go to myhealthpolicy.com. With myhealthpolicy.com, you can compare plans from some of the nation's top insurers. Start now to find a plan and apply online. myhealthpolicy.com makes it easy to find a Medicare Advantage plan in your area, including plans for $0 a month in plan premiums, low out-of-pocket costs, and expansive provider networks.
My decision, my Medicare. myhealthpolicy.com.